Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever been in a relationship where someone shows you so much love, but then suddenly they pull back and ignore you? It's confusing, right? One minute they're showering you with affection, and the next, they act distant like you don't even exist. It's enough to drive anyone crazy and leave you questioning, what happened? Why are they doing this if they love me so much? Well, let me tell you this. It's not as simple as it seems. In fact, there's a deeper reason behind this behavior, and understanding it can completely change the way you look at love and relationships. Trust me, by the end of this conversation, you'll know exactly why the one who loves you a lot might be ignoring you a lot. And once you know, you'll be able to navigate this confusion with clarity. Stick with me, because you don't want to miss what comes next. When someone loves you deeply, their emotions can become overwhelming, and this can cause them to pull away. It's a strange paradox, isn't it? You would think that the more someone cares, the more they would want to be around you. But the truth is, love isn't always just about wanting to be close. Sometimes, the deeper the affection, the more intense the need to step back. It's not that they don't care. Rather, they may be feeling so much that they don't know how to handle it, and that can make them retreat. Imagine this: you're so invested in someone, so emotionally attached, that everything they do feels amplified. When they smile, you feel joy. When they're sad, you feel their pain. That level of emotional connection can be overwhelming for anyone. Some people have difficulty managing that intensity, and in an attempt to keep their emotions in check, they retreat. They pull back because they're struggling with the flood of feelings they have for you, and they need space to process it all. It's like they're trying to understand their emotions better without getting swept away by them. This can be especially true if there's someone who tends to keep their feelings to themselves. The more they care, the more they feel vulnerable, and vulnerability can be a scary thing for many people. When someone is vulnerable, they feel exposed, like they're putting their heart out on the line for you, and there's a risk of getting hurt. Love can make people feel naked and raw, and for some, it's easier to retreat than to risk being hurt. They don't want to come on too strong or be too much for you, so they pull away, thinking that giving you space will somehow help protect the relationship. And this is where it gets tricky. The love they feel for you might actually be the thing that pushes them away. They may care so much that they're afraid of suffocating you or overwhelming you with their emotions. They want to give you room to breathe and let the relationship develop at a pace that feels comfortable. Ironically, their love, the thing that draws them to you, is also what makes them step back, because they're afraid that their feelings could become too much. This can leave you confused, wondering why they seem distant when all you want is for them to be closer. Another aspect of this dynamic is the fear of vulnerability. Some people, especially those who have been hurt in the past, are scared of allowing themselves to be fully open with someone. When you love someone, you put yourself in a position where you can get hurt. And that's a scary thing. It's one thing to like someone or be casually interested in them, but when it's love, it's different. The stakes are higher. And so, to protect themselves from the pain of potential loss, they might withdraw. It's a defense mechanism, a way of protecting their hearts from the possibility of being let down. They may also need time to process the gravity of their feelings. Loving someone can bring up a lot of emotions: fear, excitement, joy, anxiety, and it can be overwhelming for some people. They may not know how to handle the weight of it all and need space to figure it out. It's like they're navigating uncharted waters and need a moment to catch their breath before they dive back in. And because their love for you is so deep, they need time to reconcile their own feelings before they can show up for you in the way they want to. This emotional overload isn't something that happens intentionally. It's not that they want to hurt you or make you feel neglected. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They pull away because they care too much and don't know how to manage it. Their love is powerful, and sometimes it can feel too much to handle, even for them. The space they create is a way of coping, a way of maintaining their own emotional balance while they process everything that comes with being in love. If you've ever felt like someone who loves you is pulling away, it's important to understand that this isn't necessarily a reflection of their feelings for you. It's a reflection of their own emotional experience. They may love you deeply but need time and space to manage those feelings. It's a paradox. But once you understand that their emotional distance may actually be a sign of just how deeply they care, it can help you navigate the situation with patience and empathy. The love they feel might be so intense that they need time to breathe, but once they're ready, they'll come back to you even stronger. When someone loves you deeply, it's not always easy for them to express or show it in the way you might expect. For some people, love can feel so overwhelming that they don't know how to channel it properly. They might feel like they are in over their head with emotions they've never experienced before, and the intensity of their feelings can make them want to retreat. So, when a person pulls away after showing you affection, it isn't necessarily because they don't care. In fact, it's often because their feelings are so powerful that they become paralyzed by the fear of being vulnerable. The fear of vulnerability is one of the primary reasons why someone who loves you might distance themselves. When you love someone, you open yourself up to the possibility of getting hurt. And for many people, that's a terrifying concept. They may have been hurt in the past, and the pain of that loss lingers in their heart, preventing them from fully opening up to someone new. Even if they love you, they might find it hard to let go of their emotional guard. The vulnerability that love requires can feel like a threat to their emotional safety, and so they may withdraw as a form of self-protection. This retreat isn't a reflection of their lack of care. It's actually a coping mechanism, a way to keep their heart from being exposed too much. When you truly love someone, there's always that lingering fear of rejection. It doesn't matter how strong the bond is or how much affection you share, the thought that the person you love might not feel the same way, or worse, might hurt you, can be paralyzing. The idea of being rejected after being so open and vulnerable is one of the hardest things for anyone to face, and for some, it's easier to pull away than to risk that kind of emotional exposure. So, when someone loves you but retreats, it's often because they're trying to protect themselves from that fear of rejection. They might feel as though they're giving too much of themselves and worry that it could lead to heart-attach if things don't work out. This fear is so deep that it makes them instinctively hold back, creating distance instead of drawing closer. In relationships, people can also be afraid of how much they're giving. When someone loves you a lot, they might fear that they're giving too much of themselves away. This isn't about being selfish. It's about the concern that they could lose their own identity in the relationship. They may wonder if they're losing themselves in the process of loving you. When someone loves deeply, they can sometimes feel like they are losing control of their emotions, their thoughts, and their priorities. Instead of openly expressing all of their love, they might pull back to maintain a sense of balance in their life. This distance can serve as a way for them to hold on to their sense of self and not get overwhelmed by the emotions they're experiencing. Then another reason why someone who loves you might distance themselves is because of the fear of being smothered or suffocated. They may be afraid of the intensity of the relationship, and the closeness that love requires might make them feel trapped. When people care for each other deeply, there's an inherent desire to spend a lot of time together. But for some individuals, this can feel overwhelming. They may love you, but also feel the need for space, so they retreat to preserve their emotional independence. Their retreat isn't a sign of lack of affection. Rather, it's an attempt to maintain some emotional distance so they don't feel like they're losing themselves in the relationship. The more they love you, the more they may feel the need to keep some distance to keep their own personal space intact. There's also the issue of personal insecurities. Some people, no matter how much they love someone, struggle with feelings of inadequacy. They may worry that they are not enough for you, or that they can't meet your needs in the relationship. Instead of facing those feelings head on, they might withdraw because they fear being exposed as vulnerable or unworthy of your love. In this case, their pulling away isn't about you, it's about their own self-doubt. They might love you deeply, but don't believe they can live up to your expectations, so they pull back to avoid disappointing you. The bottom line is that love is a complicated, often overwhelming emotion. The people who care for you deeply might love you so much that they're afraid of what that love means for them emotionally. They might retreat because they're afraid of being too vulnerable, too open, or too exposed. It's not about them loving you less. It's about their own emotional struggles with the depth of the love they feel. Understanding this dynamic can help you approach their behavior with more empathy and patience, allowing you to navigate these moments of emotional distance with greater clarity. When someone loves you a lot, but ignores you a lot, it often means that their emotions are simply too powerful for them to handle, and their retreat is their way of trying to process it all. When someone loves you deeply, it's not always easy for them to express it consistently. Sometimes they pull away not because their feelings have changed, but because they're overwhelmed by the emotions they're experiencing. Love isn't just about the joyful moments, it also brings up fears, doubts, and insecurities that people often don't know how to manage. They may be feeling so much that they need time to process it, and that process often involves stepping back for a moment. The fear of losing control over their emotions can lead them to distance themselves, but this doesn't mean they care for you any less. In fact, it's a sign that they care more than they can handle at times. This emotional overload happens because love brings vulnerability. When someone loves you, they're essentially opening themselves up to the potential of hurt. The more someone loves, the more exposed they feel. And for many people, that level of exposure is uncomfortable. The more they love you, the more they feel the risk of being hurt, and so they retreat to protect themselves. It's almost like their mind and heart are at odds. Part of them wants to stay close to you, while the other part wants to keep a safe distance to avoid the risk of emotional pain. So when they step back, it's not necessarily because they don't want to be with you, it's because their love is so deep that they feel a need to protect themselves from the vulnerability it creates. In addition to emotional overload, some people who love you deeply might fear being too much for you. Love can be an intense feeling, and some people are afraid that the more they care, the more they might overwhelm their partner. They fear that their needs, desires, and emotions might be too demanding, and so they pull back to give you space, thinking it might be what's best for both of you. They might love you so much that they want to avoid being a burden, so instead of showing affection and neediness, they pull away thinking that they're giving you the freedom to live your life without feeling weighed down by their emotions. This fear of being too much can be crippling for someone who is deeply in love, especially if they've had past experiences where their love or needs were met with rejection or indifference. Moreover, love can stir up insecurities that they may not even be fully aware of. When someone loves you intensely, it's natural to want to feel worthy of that love. However, for some people, this desire can bring out feelings of inadequacy or fear of not being enough. They may worry that they don't meet your expectations or that they'll disappoint you somehow. This fear can cause them to retreat, not because they want to push you away, but because they're trying to protect themselves from the potential heartbreak of realizing they aren't good enough. This insecurity doesn't stem from a lack of love. Rather, it's the overwhelming nature of the love that can cause them to pull back, thinking they need to figure out if they can truly live up to the feelings they have for you. This dynamic can also be a result of personal boundaries. Everyone has different levels of comfort with closeness, and sometimes, even in the most loving relationships, there can be a need for personal space. It's important to remember that an emotional distance doesn't always signify a lack of affection. It might be that the person needs time alone to recharge, reflect, or manage their own emotional state. For some, the intensity of love can feel like a pressure to constantly connect, and while they may deeply care about you, they might need time to themselves to process those feelings. They may feel that by pulling back, they're ensuring that their relationship remains healthy and balanced rather than feeling consumed by the emotional intensity of love. Another factor is that love often brings with it a sense of responsibility. When someone loves you deeply, they may feel an immense pressure to live up to what they believe you deserve. This pressure to be perfect, to always be there, and to always do the right thing can feel suffocating. In response, some people pull back to manage the weight of their emotions. They may worry that if they stay too close, they'll disappoint you or fall short of the ideal image of what a partner should be. This kind of emotional push and pull can be exhausting, and the person might retreat to cope with the stress of wanting to give you everything while fearing that they might fail in the process. At the heart of this behavior is the simple truth that love isn't just about moments of affection. It's about navigating vulnerability, fear, and personal boundaries. The person who loves you deeply may struggle with their own internal battles, and while their retreat can be painful for you, it often signifies that they care more than they can handle at that moment. They might need space to reconcile their emotions, manage their fears, and figure out how to balance their love with their need for self-preservation. So when they distance themselves, it's not a rejection, it's a sign of their struggle to process the overwhelming feelings they have for you. Understanding this can help you approach the situation with patience and empathy, knowing that their retreat is often a reflection of their own emotional journey, not a lack of love. When someone loves you deeply, they may sometimes feel the need to create space, not because they no longer care, but because they fear they might lose themselves in the relationship. Relationships are complex, and love requires emotional investment, but it also involves maintaining a sense of personal identity. It's common for people, especially those who love intensely, to worry that they might give up too much of who they are in the process of loving another person. When they retreat, it often reflects a need to preserve their sense of self, not a sign that they love you any less. This fear of losing themselves can cause them to pull away even if they care for you deeply. It's an internal struggle, the desire to connect with you and the desire to stay true to their own identity. Some people might also pull back because they feel that love is becoming too consuming. When love is deep and overwhelming, it can sometimes feel like it's swallowing up everything else in life. While they may enjoy the closeness and intimacy of the relationship, they might start to feel suffocated by how much of their emotional energy they're pouring into the connection. The desire to keep things balanced and healthy can lead them to distance themselves, but it's not because they no longer care. In fact, it's because they care so much that they want to make sure they don't lose their own sense of individuality or independence. The fear of becoming too dependent on someone emotionally, or of becoming so wrapped up in the relationship that they lose sight of their own needs, can cause them to create space, even if that space hurts both of you in the short term. In some cases, the fear of losing oneself also connects to deeper issues of emotional independence and autonomy. Everyone has a different need for personal space in a relationship, and some people may feel that constant emotional closeness erodes their ability to make their own decisions or express themselves freely. A person who loves you might distance themselves when they feel like their personal autonomy is being compromised. They may not want to feel like they're losing the ability to make decisions or pursue their own passions because of the relationship. They might retreat as a way of ensuring that they don't get lost in the relationship and that they can maintain their sense of independence. This is not a reflection of their love for you, but a desire to keep the relationship healthy and balanced, ensuring that both people in the relationship can still maintain their individual identities. The need for space can also stem from a desire for emotional clarity. When someone loves you deeply, they might start to feel overwhelmed by the intensity of their feelings and the complexity of the relationship. Sometimes, when emotions are running high, it's difficult to think clearly or make rational decisions. Taking a step back can give them the emotional distance they need to reflect on the relationship, understand their feelings better, and decide how to proceed in a healthy way. By creating this space, they are not rejecting you. They are simply allowing themselves the time and space to process everything without being clouded by the constant emotional exchange in the relationship. This break allows them to regain clarity, which can ultimately strengthen the relationship in the long run. Another reason someone who loves you might retreat is because they fear that their love for you is not enough. This is an insecurity that often arises when someone cares deeply about another person, but feels that they may not be able to meet all of their partner's needs or expectations. Love, in this case, becomes a source of pressure rather than comfort. They may start to feel like they can't give enough of themselves to make you happy, or that they are failing to be the partner you deserve. This fear of inadequacy can push them to distance themselves, hoping that by doing so, they can prevent the disappointment of realizing they can't live up to their partner's hopes or desires. Instead of continuing to give, they pull back as a way of protecting both themselves and you from the potential pain of feeling like they're not enough. In some instances, a person who loves you might withdraw because they're trying to protect both of you from potential heartbreak. When someone is deeply in love, they are often aware of how fragile the relationship can be. They may fear that, despite their best efforts, things could fall apart and the emotional fallout could be too much to bear. In this case, their retreat is a preemptive defense mechanism. They pull away in an effort to cushion the blow if the relationship doesn't work out. By distancing themselves, they are trying to avoid the raw pain of being hurt, and perhaps they are also trying to protect you from that hurt as well. They don't want to be the cause of your pain, So they create emotional distance to shield both of you from the potential heartbreak that might come with a more intense or vulnerable connection. The bottom line is that when someone who loves you pulls back, it's often because they are grappling with internal struggles. They may be afraid of losing their individuality, their emotional clarity, or their ability to meet your needs. Their retreat isn't a sign that they don't love you. It's a reflection of their need to protect themselves from the overwhelming emotions they feel. By giving them the space they need, you allow them to work through their fears so that when they return, they can bring even more to the relationship than they could have before. The distance they create might be difficult to understand, but it's a process that ultimately helps them regain balance and clarity, ensuring that when they come back, they are able to love you in a way that is both healthy and sustainable for both of you. When someone loves you a lot but keeps ignoring you, one major reason could be that they are battling their own inner emotional pain. You see, love doesn't always come from a place of confidence or emotional wholeness. Sometimes love comes from people who are still trying to fix themselves, and when they love you deeply, that love can scare them. Not because of you, but because of what they think they don't deserve. When someone is hurting on the inside, when they carry pain they've never dealt with, maybe from a childhood wound, a toxic past relationship, rejection, betrayal, or even low self-esteem, it affects the way they show up in a relationship. It makes them question whether they're good enough, then whether they'll ruin something good, and whether they'll end up being a disappointment. That's when they start pulling back. That's when the silence starts. It's not because they don't love you. It's because their emotional wounds are screaming louder than their love can speak. Ignoring you becomes a defense mechanism. They don't know how to express themselves properly. They don't know how to say, "I'm scared to lose you," or "I don't think I'm enough for you," or even, "I don't know how to be loved." So instead of opening up, they shut down. Instead of leaning in, they lean away. They disappear behind their own walls, and you're left confused, thinking you did something wrong, when in reality, they're just trying to hide their pain from you. You see, emotional pain makes people act in ways that don't always make sense. A person can love you with their whole heart and still not be able to show it the right way. That's the hard truth. They might think they're protecting you by pulling back because in their mind, being close to you might mean one day you'll see all their flaws and walk away. They might believe that if you truly saw how broken they feel on the inside, you wouldn't want to stick around. So rather than risk that kind of exposure, they keep you at arm's length. And in doing so, they hurt you. Not intentionally, but as a result of the chaos they haven't healed within themselves. Sometimes a person ignores you because they think silence is safer than vulnerability. Being vulnerable means showing someone where it hurts, and that can feel terrifying, especially if the person has been hurt in the past. Maybe they've opened up before and it backfired. Maybe they were told their feelings didn't matter, or they were laughed at or rejected. So now, they don't know how to let someone in, even when they desperately want to. The more they love you, the more pressure they feel to be perfect, to not mess it up. And when they realize they can't be perfect, their fear tells them to pull away before they ruin things. Their fear convinces them that they're saving you from their chaos, even though all you want is to love them through it. There's also a deeper kind of pain that sometimes makes people sabotage what's good in their life. Some people are so used to dysfunction that healthy love feels unfamiliar. It feels suspicious. When someone's been through trauma or toxic cycles, love that is kind, patient and present feels like a trick. So they run. They ignore you. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. They think, this can't be real. This can't last. I better push them away before they leave me. And the tragic part is, sometimes they push away the very thing they've always wanted just because they don't believe they deserve it. Then that's what emotional pain does. It clouds your judgment. It makes love feel like a battlefield when it's supposed to be a safe place. And unless a person confronts that pain, unless they're willing to heal and do the work, they will keep hurting people they love. Not because they want to, but because they don't know how not to. They will keep ignoring the ones they care about the most, thinking they're protecting them when really they're just pushing them further away. So if you're on the receiving end of that silence, know this, it's not your fault. Their silence isn't a reflection of your worth. Their distance doesn't mean your love isn't good enough. It means they're battling something inside that's bigger than the relationship. You can love them, but you can't fix them. Healing is a choice they have to make for themselves. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let them face that choice. Because at the end of the day, love deserves presence. It deserves effort. It deserves someone who won't run every time things get deep. You can be patient. You can be understanding, but you also deserve to be loved in return, not just in their heart, but in their actions. Sometimes the person who loves you deeply ignores you simply because they don't know how to love. That might sound strange. How can someone love you but not know how to love you? But it happens all the time. Love is a feeling, yes, but expressing love is a skill. And not everyone grows up learning that skill. Some people grow up in homes where love wasn't shown openly. Maybe they didn't see affection between their parents. Maybe no one said, I love you. Maybe feelings weren't talked about. So when they grow up and start feeling real emotions for someone, they don't know how to handle it. They freeze. They shut down. They stay quiet, not because they don't care, but because they don't know what to do with those big feelings. Love can be overwhelming, especially for someone who has never felt safe showing emotion. So when you come along and love them deeply, it triggers something in them. They feel it, they know it's real, but they don't have the tools to communicate it. They don't know how to show up consistently. They might think love is enough on its own, that having strong feelings is all that's needed. But love, without communication and effort, can feel like abandonment. If someone doesn't know how to express what they feel, they'll fall back into habits of silence. They'll avoid phone calls. They won't text back. They'll ghost you for days and come back acting like nothing happened. And you're left wondering, do they even care? Yes, they do care. But they never learned how to show up for someone. They never learned that love is in the little things. Checking in, showing up, saying how you feel, being present. They might think that just staying around is enough, but love needs more than presence. It needs intention. If someone doesn't know that, they'll keep loving you in silence while hurting you loudly. Their love becomes confusing. It becomes a guessing game, and you start doing all the emotional labor, initiating fixing, holding on. Meanwhile, they're sitting with all this love in their heart, but not doing anything about it. This is not because they're bad people. This is because no one ever taught them what love looks like in action. And in some cases, they might have learned the wrong version of love. Maybe love was mixed with control or manipulation when they were younger. Maybe they saw love as something you had to earn by suffering or sacrificing your peace. So now, even though they love you, they treat the relationship like it's supposed to hurt. They think pulling away is normal. They think silence is strength. They think avoiding conflict is keeping the peace. But all it really does is build walls between you. Someone who doesn't know how to love might think that ignoring you gives them control, that if they stay quiet long enough, you'll chase them. They don't say what they feel because they assume you'll just know. But relationships don't work like that. If you love someone, you have to say it. If you care, you have to show it. If you're hurt, you need to speak it. Silence doesn't build trust, it breaks it. And ignoring someone you love doesn't protect your heart, it damages theirs. It's painful to be on the other side of that, to know someone loves you, but feel completely alone in the relationship, to see the good in them, but always be waiting for the day they finally step up and show it. You keep holding on, thinking maybe if you love them harder, they'll finally get it. But love isn't about proving yourself to someone. It's about choosing each other, showing up, and doing the work. If someone doesn't know how to love you properly, it's not your job to teach them everything. You can guide, you can encourage, but they have to be willing to learn. Real love grows when both people are willing to learn each other, to communicate, to be present, to say, I love you, and back it up with actions. So when someone ignores you, even though they love you, it's not just about the silence. It's about their fear, their lack of tools, their history. But love, real love, isn't just about feelings, it's about effort. If they truly love you, they will eventually have to face that truth. They'll have to decide if they want to keep loving you in silence or start showing you that love in a way that brings peace, not pain. And if they don't, then you have to decide whether loving someone who doesn't know how to love is worth sacrificing your own heart. Because you deserve love that doesn't leave you guessing. You deserve love that speaks up, that shows up, and that grows up.